Greetings, friends. We hope that you are doing good today. Thank you for tuning in to Frank Echeverria, my great friend, his ministry channel. My name is Hiubert Zamora, and I want to share with you something very profound that I know will be a blessing to you. And we've titled this Exactly What Your Soul Needs Today. And I believe that if you just stick with me for some more minutes, do not tune away. This will help you in your daily walk. And I want to read Psalms 131. Psalms 131 is very short. It only has 3 verses. The only other book in the Bible that is shorter than Psalm 131 is Psalm 117, which only has 2 verses. So it's one of the second smallest chapter in the whole Bible. Yet Charles Spurgeon said it is one of the shortest psalms to read, but one of the longest to learn. So it's so short, yet it's so profound. And I invite you that you read the scriptures with me today and we learn from what King David is speaking here. And it's a song of ascents of David. And he says here in Psalm 131, O Lord, my heart is not lifted up. My eyes are not raised too high. I do not occupy myself with things too great and too marvelous for me. But I have calmed and quieted my soul, like a weaned child with its mother. Like a weaned child is my soul within me. O Israel, hope in the Lord from this time forth and forevermore. It is so profound what he's saying here. And I want to remind you, this is King David speaking. This is King David writing. We don't know exactly what time in his life he wrote this or he expressed this or he said this. Many theologians, it varies, right, of when they think or when you may think that he said this. But David was a king. And for him to say here, oh Lord, my heart is not lifted up. Other translations say my heart is not proud. And he said, my eyes are not raised too high. My eyes are not lofty. My eyes are not haughty. Usually, when pride has entered your heart, then is followed by your eyes, where you look down on others. And David says here, "My eyes are not raised too high. I know where I should be. I know where I should stand. Even with this anointing that God has given me as king." Even with this position that I am in, I'm not going to look down on others. My eyes are not too high. Notice how he's speaking about himself. And I know that one can easily talk so good about themselves. But notice how this can help you. If you could just grasp this, it's a position of humility. My eyes are not raised too high, enough to look down on others or think that I'm better than others. My heart is not proud. And notice how he says later, I do not occupy myself with things too great and too marvelous for me. Other translations say, neither do I concern myself with great matters or with things too profound for me. I don't get involved with things too great or too wondrous for me. In other words, I'm going to just stay in my lane. I mean, this is so important for your soul and for your life. Sometimes, or many times, or all the time, you just got to stay in your lane. That could stop so much anxiety from coming into your life. Notice this great king. I mean, there was a time where Saul was persecuting him. There was a time where he fell and he made so many mistakes. There could be, and we just tend to want to control the outcome. There's just some things that we can't control. There's just some things in life that we can't change. And that's why he may be saying here, I'm not going to occupy myself with things too great, too marvelous for me, too profound. That's not my lane. That may not be my assignment. That may not be your problem. Maybe this can apply to your life right now. You may need to say, hey, that's too profound for me. I'm not going to get into that topic. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm not going to, that's too great for me. It takes a lot of humility, right? When you just say, well, I'm not going to hone in on that. I really got nothing to say. That's not for me. That's not my cup of tea, or that's not my problem. So David says this here. I'm not going to occupy myself. But look what he says in verse 2. But I have calmed and quieted my soul. I have calmed and quieted my soul. And I want to invite you, friend, to just understand this for today, or try to understand it. It may take us a lifetime to maybe understand this or actually live this. But the importance of quieting our soul. Our soul could get so loud. Our mind, our will, our emotions can be so loud every day. It's so loud, so squeaky, so overwhelming. The sound of our soul, of our worries, of our anxieties, of our problems. And David says here, but I have calmed and quieted my soul. Many times, if you want to have a good relationship with God, you got to quiet your soul. How can we hear God when our soul is so loud? When our soul wants to be on the phone? When our soul is consumed? Our mind is consumed with everything that's happening, with all the noise of the world, with all the noise even from our past, with all the noise of your critics, with all the noise of your haters, with all the noise of your financial problems, with all the noise of your family problems, with all the noise of your business issues and finances. And so many things may be going on in your life, in your family, and your soul is loud. And I want to invite you, my friend, to do what King David says here, to calm and quiet your soul. You may need to do that every morning, to even seek God. You may need to do that every morning or every day, or in the toughest moment of your life, before making any important decision or crucial decision. You have to just calm and quiet your soul. One of the greatest benefits of having a relationship with God is actually hearing him. Not just talking and praying, but letting that be a dialogue. And many people say, well, I don't hear God. I need to hear God. I know that you need to hear God. I need to hear God for so many things that happen, are happening, and will happen. And I want to invite you, my friend, wherever you are, that you calm and quiet your soul. You want to spend time with God? Close the door. Notice how the Bible says, go into your closet. If you go into a closet is quiet. If you go in any closet, there's no noise in a closet. People don't hang out in a closet. People don't make a lot of noise in a closet. You want to go to a quiet place? Go hide in a closet. And why? Because it's quiet there. So I want to invite you, friend. Maybe you need this today, or you're going to need this tomorrow. I know you're going to need this maybe for the rest of your life, where you just got to quiet your soul. Maybe you do that by turning off your phone, putting it aside, putting it on silent, turning off the TV, turning off the noise, focusing on God, and just quieting your soul. And maybe then you could finally hear God on the decision that you ought to make. Calming and quieting your soul, because it's so loud. I know it's easy to say, but it's so hard to do. And David goes on to say, like a weaned child with his mother. Now, weaning means, for those of you that don't know, is when you take a baby and you stop feeding them the breast of the mother. So they have to, and that only happens once. From that day on, they will no longer depend on the mother of the milk from the breast of the mother. So you wean a child. So he's saying like a weaned child with his mother. So now you stop depending on the milk of your mother, and now you depend on the relationship with her. So now you don't go to her chest to benefit from the milk of her breast, but now you go to her chest to be with her. And that takes growing up, right? Where Imagine we do that with God, that you don't just go to him because you need something from him, but you go to him to spend time with him. It takes quieting your soul to do that. So he says, like a weaned child with his mother, like a weaned child is my soul within me. So it takes weaning. We need to wean ourselves. We may need to be weaned of our self-sufficiency. We need to wean ourselves from depending or from worrying or from listening to the voices or the noise of our soul. So he says here, like a weaned child is my soul within me. And it takes a lot of weaning. It takes weaning for us to truly depend on God. We may need to wean ourselves from ourselves. We need weaning from ourselves. Our self-sufficiency. Notice how he begins here with pride, with not our eyes not being raised too high. We need to let that go. And we need to do it once and for all, because weaning only happens once. You do that only once, and then the child lives for the rest of his life, no longer depending on that milk of his mother. And notice in verse 3, only 3 verses. O Israel, the first thing that this man thinks about. When you wean yourself from sufficiency of yourself, the first thing he thinks about is his people. He said, O Israel, hope in the Lord from this time forth and forevermore. So this weaning is forever. And I know that there's so many ways, so many things that you could get from these 3 verses. But at the end, it's hoping in the Lord. And I want to invite you to calm your soul, to quiet it, and to turn back to hoping in God, to trusting in him, and to spending time with him, being with him. You may need this to hear the voice of God. You may need this tomorrow to actually relax and calm down and maybe conquer that depression, conquer that anxiety, conquer that life of stress, conquer that life of bitterness. Maybe it's in that moment where you quiet your soul that you could think about, man, I just need to forgive and let this go and make amends with my family or truly love. Maybe it's in that time of quieting where you quiet your soul. Well, God gives you the ability to love like he loves. Will he remind you of how much he's forgiven you, of how much he has loved you throughout all your mistakes and maybe all your downfalls. So I invite you today, my friend, that we do what David did here. He says, but I have calmed and quieted my soul. I hope that this word will bless you today and that you could use it every day in life. We need to hear God, and if we could just wean ourselves, disconnect ourselves from the need of ourself, of what I can gain, what I can do. He said, notice how he says here, I do not occupy myself with things too great for me. I'm not gonna deal with that. I'm gonna stay in my lane. And sometimes the best thing to do is to stay in your lane. Many people want to be so great when that may not be the lane for you right now. Maybe later on. But today, focus on what God has given you. Don't occupy yourself with things that you have no control over. I want to invite you, my friend, to trust in the Lord with all of your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding. Acknowledge him in all your ways, and he will direct your path. I just pray the peace of God over you. And I pray that God will give you the grace, the ability, the strength, the will to quiet your soul and maybe turn off all that noise that is around you, and that you will be able to put your eyes back on God. Take your eyes off of yourself, but put your eyes back on him and trust in him And how David said, "O Israel, hope in the Lord." Hope. Don't lose hope. God will always give you back that hope, that ability to even look at the days ahead and say, I'm not going to worry about this. I'm not going to consume my mind with this. I'm not going to let this anxiety take over. I'm not going to let this depress me. I'm not going to let this overwhelm me. But I'm going to quiet my soul, give it to God. Hear Him, listen to Him, and just dwell in His peace and receive His peace. I pray that the peace of God that surpasses all understanding, will guard your heart and your mind. And I pray that this word will bless you and that you will be able to apply it every day of your life and for the rest of your life. How David said, now and forever. It takes today. Will you wean yourself, wean your soul from all that noise, and trust in the Lord and hope in Him. We'll see you next time, friends. And if this has been a blessing to you, subscribe today if you're not subscribed to this channel, or share with a family or a friend. We'll see you next time.